I mean this with all due respect, but when it comes to Fujifilm colors, what are we talking about? Like when we say we love Fujifilm colors, what does that mean? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Chris Hagan, a video producer and photographer in Portland, Oregon, and I'd love for this to be as much of a conversation, like in the comments with each other and other viewers, as it is a video explainer, because I'm not sure what the answer is here. I'm gonna go from what I feel like are definitely Fujifilm colors to where I think we have to start drawing a bit of a line. We're talking film simulations, film recipes, because there is a difference, the Fuji X Raw Studio, and then editing raw photos where, I don't know. I don't know how much credit we have to give Fujifilm for the colors, but we'll see. So I think film simulations is one area where you can definitely say these are Fujifilm colors. These are the profiles within the camera, accessible by all, and able to be applied to our photos straight out of camera. And the beautiful part is there are so many of them with so many different looks, even without touching contrast, white balance, or color settings. And we'll get to those in the next section. The simulations themselves vary greatly. Of course, this feature of specific color interpretation or styling is not unique to Fujifilm. There are other manufacturers that have a number of creative looks readily available in camera as well. Still, it's the tried and true variety of Fujifilm simulations, some of which have been around for years, even as the cameras have upgraded, that seem just especially unique. And it's these simulations that serve as the foundation for recipes. I think this is the ultimate hook for Fujifilm marketing, and it's the community that feeds this the most. Fujifilm recipes are the pairing of a particular film simulation with certain settings, a recipe if you will, that create a specific look. What tends to spark interest first is how much they can make your digital photos look like film. I'd say some recipes look like film more than others, but then again, I don't shoot film, so what am I even talking about? Most people that do would probably tell you otherwise. You can be the judge of whether they do or do not look more analog than digital. Whatever side of that debate you land on, what I think you come to appreciate with the Fujifilm system and these recipes is the flexibility. If you think the Kodak Gold recipe looks really good, but you want more or less contrast, go for it. You can adjust the tone curve and dynamic range in camera to create your preferred style of image. You're never totally locked into a look unless you want to be. Some recipes are great as is. Some might just serve as a starting point for you. It's all subjective, but it's really cool that it's an option that's not too difficult to use. So when people say Fujifilm colors, recipes and simulations are often what come to mind first for me, probably because both produce images straight out of camera, unique to Fujifilm color options and settings, and nothing else. Now, I can't talk about Fujifilm color and settings without briefly mentioning the Fuji X Raw Studio. With the raw files on your computer and camera connected to the computer via USB, you can open these raw files in the Fuji X Raw Studio and tweak everything. Film simulation, exposure, dynamic range, highlights and shadows, color, white balance, all the same things that go into your recipe. However, despite all of those things that you can adjust, personally, I just don't consider this an editing app. I'm sure some people do make edits here, but overall, it's just a little bit too slow of a process for me to go through and edit an entire batch of photos like this. Not to mention, it doesn't have anywhere near the amount of localized adjustment options you can make in a program like Lightroom or Capture One. If I'm gonna take the time to edit a photo, that's where I'll be instead. What I do use the Fuji X Raw Studio for is testing recipes. I'll take a few photos from somewhat different settings, maybe some in the morning, some during the middle of the day, maybe a few sunset or some with natural light indoors, and then apply a film simulation and tweak the settings. This allows me to see what all of these photos would look like straight out of camera. If I like what I get in terms of white balance, color, and contrast across a few different scenes, then I'll probably save that recipe to my camera and put it into the rotation. It's just a more time-efficient trial and error to try new looks. Okay, now we get to the raw images, and I've heard there are differences in how Lightroom and Capture One process the RAWs from Fujifilm. I've only used Lightroom, so if that's true, I'd love for someone to fill me in because that sounds kind of interesting. Anyway, similar to the film simulations being unique to Fujifilm cameras, within Lightroom, and I believe Capture One as well, you get what are called camera matching profiles. They may be called something different in Capture One, and this is with any brand. For Sony files, for example, I have these profiles that will only work with Sony RAW images. And you guessed it, with Fujifilm, these camera matching profiles are the same film simulations that we get in the camera, but now you can access them within a deep, feature-rich editing software, and you have a lot more options to play with. I like it because take the classic negative film simulation, for example. I think it looks awesome, but I have always struggled to find a classic negative-based recipe that I like straight out of camera, whether it's how it portrays the skin tones or adjusts the hue of certain colors. It's never quite to my liking. But in Lightroom, I have a lot more power to change the colors and contrast. In fact, I have my own preset built that uses the classic negative profile as a base and then applies color and contrast settings adjusted to my liking. And pro tip, if you're editing a lot and don't do this, you're wasting a lot of time. It's essentially the same thing as using a film recipe in camera. I have this and a few other personal presets based on different lighting situations, so whether I'm editing on my phone or MacBook, I make one click to get to my preferred starting point and then just make a few changes from there, usually just to exposure and maybe a little bit of contrast. Anyway, being able to make edits based uniquely on Fujifilm's film simulations within Lightroom is a lot of fun. And again, I think when we declare how much we love Fujifilm colors, this can get lumped into that. Where I think we start to draw more of a line is when we step outside of the Fujifilm world. And again, if I'm off base here, just let me know. But for example, if I pick Adobe Color or any profile that can be used with any RAW file, well, then Lightroom should be interpreting the colors between Fujifilm, Sony, Nikon, whoever, the same, right? Another personal preset that I use on a lot of my edited photos is based on the Portra 800 profile from the Archetype process. You should check them out because their film-like profiles are really cool. And when I apply it to a Sony file versus a Fujifilm file versus another brand, I'm getting colors I really like on every image. So as great as it looks on a lot of my Fujifilm files, I don't know if that's a result of how this Fujifilm sensor has captured the colors or how they're being processed with this profile in Lightroom, if that makes sense. An even better test is with some of my favorite presets right now, these from Caleb Salvadori's film collection. They're linked in the description if you like them. Same arcade, same lighting, same preset, Fujifilm X106 on the left, Sony a7 IV on the right. The angles are a little different since I shot these on different days and not with this test in mind, but you get the idea. I didn't go out of my way to match these or anything, just one click, maybe a little exposure adjustment, that's it. So, I don't know. Once we take raw photos from most modern cameras through post-processing, color science might be a moot point. But I will say, I do really like the colors, so much so that I've been editing more and more of the RAWs from my X106. I resisted regularly editing them for so long and instead usually shared a mix of straight out of camera images and edits. But once you see how much more you can get out of the image, how you can make even more adjustments to your tone curve and adjust the black point more to get a little bit of a softer image sometimes when you want it, all of those little local adjustments that you just can't do in camera, sometimes it's hard to go back and live with the straight out of camera image when you know there's just more to be had. But that's probably a topic for another day. I'll sum it up with this. In putting this video together, I think I answered my own question. What do we mean by Fujifilm colors? The whole thing. The entire system from in-camera colors and settings to how you manipulate them in Lightroom. It's all a big, wonderful ecosystem that makes it a really fun platform to shoot with, no matter how you capture and share your photos. Appreciate you guys going on this journey with me. It's something that's been on my mind for a while, just didn't know how to share it, but I did eventually want to get it out there to, again, get your thoughts on this. So please let me know your thoughts and whether you're going for straight out of camera images or editing more, and some of your workflows. I love using some of the different simulations to start my edits in Lightroom, and I don't know, it's just been a little bit more fun for me that way lately. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll see you next time.